Hi ladies, hope you guys are well. Today we are going to talk about price theory and I'm going to try out virtual teaching for the first time, so bear with me. Guys, with regards to price theory, we are going to have a look at demand and supply and how these two aspects will interact in determining what price you should charge for a product if you were to sell it. Let's get into it. Right, price theory. How prices are determined through the interaction of demand and supply. The definition of demand. It's how much quantity-wise consumers are willing and able to buy at a specific price. Definition of supply. How much quantity suppliers are willing and able to supply to the market at a specific price. Then factors that might influence demand. Price. The relationship between price and the quantity demanded is seen in the law of demand. At higher prices, less is demanded, and at lower prices, more is demanded. For example, your favorite pair of jeans, if that jean is cheap, you are most likely to buy more compared to when that jean is much more expensive. Consumers' income levels. If people have more money, they will buy more compared to when they don't have money. Consumers' buying patterns. It's influenced by factors such as weather, fashion, and advertising. For example, ice cream. You are more likely to buy ice cream in the middle of summer compared to buying ice cream in the middle of winter. Fashion. You're not going to buy a jacket that's out of fashion compared to one that is. And then advertising, you're not going to purchase products that you don't know about. The availability and price of substitute products, we will have a look at that on the next slide. The availability and price of complementary products, we will also have a look on that on the next slide. Nature of the product, is it necessary to survive or is it a luxury item? The situation we're in now with the coronavirus, we are only able to purchase products that's necessary to survive compared to luxury items where the shops are closed. Okay, so substitute products. Similar products or meet similar needs. Changing price of one, either up or down, will result in a corresponding change in demand of the other. For example, butter and margarine. If the price goes up for butter, more people would rather go and buy margarine. Then complementary products, products normally used together. If there's a change in the price of one, the demand of the other will also be affected. For example, cell phones and SIM cards. The more cell phones are sold, the more SIM cards will be sold as well because they work together. Law of demand. If the price of a product increases, the demand of that product will decrease. Remember the jeans I spoke about earlier. If the price of a product decreases, the demand of that product will increase. If something's cheaper, you would much rather want to buy more of that product. Demand schedule. Right, ladies, this is a table that shows the relationship between the price of an item and the quantity demanded at various prices. Here's an example. You can see if the price is 50 Rand per product, 600 units will be demanded. If the price per product increases to 250 Rand per product, for example, only 200 units will be demanded. Demand curve. A demand curve is a graphical representation of a demand scale. Right, ladies, I'm going to ask my wife a few questions to illustrate the influence price will have on demand. Remember, the higher the price, the lower the demand. This example should illustrate that. So, this is my wife.
Hello.
So, Henry, a nice pair of jeans like what you have on, at 100 Rand a pair of jeans. Would you purchase a lot? It's very cheap, right?
Yeah, it's quite cheap. I would purchase a few of them.
A few, okay?
Yeah.
Okay, now let's say the price goes up to 300 Rand a pair of jeans. Would you still purchase the same amount of jeans?
No, it will be less.
You will purchase less.
Yes, it's getting more expensive.
There you go. So let's say the price goes up by an insane amount to 800 rands. Will you
Okay.
still purchase the same amount of jeans, quantity-wise?
No, maybe one more. Just one.
No, guys, she will purchase no jeans at 800 rand. That's too expensive. Right, so I've drawn an example of a demand curve. And the law of demand states that if the quantity increases, the price will decrease. And if the quantity demanded decreases, the price for that product will increase. So let's prove that theory on a graph. If the quantity demanded was 100 units, the price per unit would be 300 rand per unit. If the quantity demanded were to increase to 200, the price per unit will then only be 250 rand per unit. If the quantity were to increase from 200 to 300, the price per unit then will be 200 rand. Let's state the inverse. If the quantity demanded was 600 units, the price per product will only be 50 rand. If that were to decrease to 500 units demanded, the price would increase to 100 rand per unit. Also, questions that we can ask is, if the quantity demanded is 400, what will the price be? So then you will follow 400 all the way until you meet the demand curve, and you will trace it back to the price. The answer will be 150 rand per unit. We can also ask you guys, if the price per unit were to be 200 rand, what will the quantity demanded? Then you will go to 200, draw a line all the way to the demand curve. Then you will go down and you will see the quantity demanded will be 300 units. Right, a shift in demand. A shift in demand is a change in demand without a change in price. That is very important not to get confused. On the previous video, I showed you a movement in demand. That is, a movement along the demand curve shows how demand changes with a change in price, compared to where a shift in demand is a change in demand without a change in price. Don't get confused. Reasons for shift in demand. Change in income levels. So remember, the product still costs the same, but because people have more money, they will buy more of the products. Seasonal change. Remember the ice cream is going to cost the same in the middle of the winter compared to in the middle of the summer, but because more people will buy more ice creams in summer, the demand for the ice cream is bigger because of the season. Fashion, price of other products, availability of other products, and then guys, increase in demand on the demand schedule. Look at this. So price 50 rand per item. Original demand was 600 units. Sorry, but now let's say the season changes or the income level of the people change. Now they want to buy more. Remember, the price of the product did not change. It's still 50 rand, but the increase in demand, it increased to 800 units now. Let's say it cost 100 rand per unit and the demand is 500 units. Let's say now the income level again changes. Now people would like to buy 700 units of the same product. A decrease in demand on the demand schedule, it's vice versa. 50 rand per unit. Originally they wanted to buy 800 units, but let's say now the income level of the people decreased. Now they are only able to buy 600 units. Or let's say it was summer and people wanted to buy a lot of ice cream, but now it's winter. Now the demand has decreased, even though the price of the ice cream still stayed the same. Summary. Okay, when demand increases, the demand curve will shift to the right, and when the demand decreases, the demand curve will shift to the left. I will show it to you guys just now. Right, ladies, I just took the previous demand curve and I added the increase in demand. The original one is shown by D1, D1, and the increase is D2, D2. Remember, guys, a shift in demand occurs because of changes in income levels, seasonal changes, fashions, price of other products, availability of other products. But remember, the price of this product stays constant. Okay, so for example, let's say the price is 300 Rand per unit. I see I made a mistake here, sorry. So let's say the price is 300 Rand per unit originally. Now let's say people earn more money, people are richer, now they can buy more. The demand will increase to 300 units. Now, don't just use your eyes, use a ruler. For example, you will see that at that point, at 300 Rand, let me do it this way around. At 300 Rand per unit, you will see that the demand will be 300 units. At 300 Rand on the original demand curve, the demand will be 100 units. Now, I just want you guys to see that because people earn more money, for instance, the demand will increase, and this is shown by a shift to the right. Right, ladies, now this represents a decrease in demand. So now the original demand line D1, D1, and let's say now, for example, the income level of people decrease and they don't have that much money anymore. The same price per product, but because people don't have that much money, the demand will decrease to D2. So let's say a product costs 300 Rand. Originally, the demand for that product was 300 units, but now because the income level of people decreased to D2, the quantity demanded decreases to 100. Guys, a decrease in demand is represented by a shift left in the demand curve. Right, now we're going to look at supply. I know we've looked at the definition when we started this video. I'm just showing it to you again in case you forgot. But it's the quantity suppliers are willing and able to supply to the market at a specific price. Okay, so factors that might influence supply, it's the price. The relationship between price and the quantity supplied is seen in the law of supply. At a higher price, more is supplied, and at a lower price, less is supplied. It's a direct influence. If price goes up, supply goes up. If price goes down, supply goes down. Okay, cost of production. If it's more expensive to produce something, the price will go up. Improvements in technology and production methods. If you have better technology, you can produce more products. Number of other suppliers in the market, price of complementary or substitute products. And then government policies, for example, increase in taxes, that will add to the production costs. The import duties, if you import products from overseas as input in your product or in your process of production, it will cost you more to produce your product. Right, so law of supply, remember direct influence. If the price of the product increases, the supply of that product will also increase. If the price of a product decreases, the supply for that product will also decrease. Right, the supply schedule. So it's exactly the same as with a demand schedule. It's the information in table form. Let's look at an example. You can see that when the price is 50 Rand, the quantity supplied will be 100 units in this example. But let's say the price goes up to 200 Rand per unit, you will see that the quantity supplied will also go up to 400 units. Do you notice that if price goes up, quantity will go up as well? And if price goes down, quantity will go down. Right, ladies, a supply curve. It is a graphical representation of a supply schedule. Right, ladies, this is an example of a supply curve. Remember, as the price goes up, the quantity supplied will also go up. Okay, and as the quantity or the price goes down, the quantity supplied will go down as well. It's a direct influence. So let's say the price is 300 Rand. What will the supply be? Let's take a ruler and have a look at the price 300. The quantity supplied will be 600. Let's say the quantity supplied is 300. What will the price be? Then we go to 300 quantity supplied. We will go there, take the ruler, look at the price. Right at that point, luckily there's a blue line. I can see it's 150 Rand. Okay, so this is a supply curve. Right, shift in supply. Okay, so change in supply without a change in price. Remember, guys, movement in supply was because of a change in price. A shift in supply, there's no change in price. Don't get confused. Once again, remember, movement along the supply curve shows how supply changes with a change in price. But we are looking at a shift in supply. So reasons for shift in supply. A change in the cost of production, change in the price of inputs, or change in price of technology. Change in the number of suppliers in the market, change in the price of alternative or substitute product. Right. Increase in supply on the supply schedule. Here's an example. So at 50 Rand per unit, you will see that the original supply was 100 units and now it is 300 units. Now this will be because of a decrease in the cost of production, more supplies in the market, and maybe because of technological advancements. Because now of better technology, you can produce more units. Let's say the price goes up to 100 Rand per unit. You would see that the original supply was 200 units, now it will be 400 units. This is called a shift once again. Right, so a decrease in supply on the supply schedule. So here's an example. You will see when it's 50 Rand a unit, the original supply is 300 units, now decreased to 100 units. Now, the reasons for this might be because of an increase in the cost of production. Because it costs more to produce it now, you're going to produce fewer units. Might be because of fewer suppliers in the market. It might also be because of external factors such as natural influences like floods. Right, a summary. When supply increases, the supply curve will shift to the right, and when supply decreases, the supply curve will shift to the left. Right, ladies, I just took the original supply curve represented by S1, S1, and I added S2, S2 to show you how an increase in supply would look in the supply curve. Remember, prices stay constant. So reasons why there might be an increase in supply. Maybe because there's a decrease in the cost of production, so now it's cheaper to produce, you will produce more products, more suppliers in the market, and maybe because of technological improvements. Now, because you have better technology, better equipment, you can produce more items. Okay, so now let's see. The price is 300 Rand per unit. The amount that you would have produced would have been 600. Remember, we took the price 300, took it all the way back to the original line, then we took it down to see what the quantity would be. It would be 600 at S1. Now let's say we have better technology. Now we can produce more units at the same price, 300 Rand still. The units produced will increase from S1 to S2. So you will see now the amount of units will be 800 units. Guys, an increase in supply will be reflected by a shift to the right in the supply curve. Right, ladies, this supply curve represents a decrease in supply. So this is our original supply curve represented by S1. And reasons why there might be a decrease in supply. It is caused by an increase in the cost of production. So maybe now it costs you more to produce, so you're going to produce fewer products, fewer supplies in the market, or maybe because of external factors such as natural influences like floods. Okay, guys, remember a decrease in supply is represented by a shift to the left in the supply curve. Let's do an example. Let's say originally we produced 800 units at 300 Rand. Let me show you how I got that. Just follow the line to 300 Rand. But now let's say because of an increase in cost of production, we need to produce fewer items. There will be a shift to the left from S1 to S2. Remember, it's still the same price per product, okay? But it costs us more expensive to produce this. This is the price that we receive for our product. Okay, so now the quantity demanded or supplied decreased from 800 to 600. Right, now we are going to look at market equilibrium. This is where demand equals supply. Okay, so some terminology that we need to have a look at before I can go to the practicals. Market equilibrium, when the demand of a product and the supply of that product are equal. Equilibrium price, the price at which demand and supply are equal. Equilibrium quantity, the quantity demanded and supplied at equilibrium price. Surplus, when supply is greater than demand, it causes prices to drop because there are more products on the market than what are demanded. And then shortages, when demand is greater than supply, it causes prices to rise because there are fewer products on the market than what demands are there for. Therefore, people are willing to pay more to get the product. Right, ladies, this is market equilibrium, the price where quantity demanded and quantity supplied are equal. Okay, so we are going to draw a demand curve and a supply curve on a graph, and where they cross is where market equilibrium will be. So we can see here where they cross, the market equilibrium price will be 200 Rand and the market equilibrium quantity will be 400 units. Right, so remember a surplus, the definition of a surplus is a surplus occurs when supply is greater than demand. It causes prices to drop, okay? And the shortage, it is occurs when demand is greater than supply. It causes prices to rise. Right, ladies, here's a question for you. What is my surplus of units at 300 Rand? Let's have a look. At 300 Rand, the quantity supplied will be 600 units. And at 300 Rand, the quantity demanded will only be 200 units. Right, so this is a difference of 400 units. In other words, we produced 600 units, but the consumers are only willing to purchase 200 units at 300 Rand. So now, because we produce 400 units too much, we're going to put these units on sale and we're going to decrease the price so the consumers will purchase more units. Okay, now another question, shortage at 100 Rand. So let's have a look. At 100 Rand, the quantity demanded is 600 units. And at 100 Rand, the quantity supplied is only 200 units. Do you see we have a big problem here as well? We have a shortage of 400 units, 600 minus 200. So we
At 100 Rand, the supplier only produced 200 units, but at 100 Rand, the consumer are willing to purchase 600 units. Because there are fewer units on the market, people are willing to purchase or pay more per unit, so the price will rise per unit.